Okay, R8 7-month review. So I ordered my R8, it was actually a year ago this month, so June of 21 I ordered it. I was able to get one of the last allocations for a 22. You know, I thought about a 21, but I already had an 18 RWS, and the reason I went with this particular 22 was because I could get a rear drive, which is my preference, with the performance package. So what that meant, it was the first year, and maybe the only year we'll see, that you could get a rear drive with performance mode and the sport exhaust as well. So it gives you an additional mode. I have another video about the modes and kind of the exhaust sounds. And so that was key, number one. Number two, with the used car market at the time, I was, my 18 RWS was actually quite a bit more than I bought it for. And then at the same time, I was able to get an allocation for a new one. So those two combined gave me the option to just go ahead and make an order for a new car. And, at the time I wasn't sure. It was a few bucks more. Obviously today I'm glad that I did, especially not knowing what's going to happen with 2023 up in the air around production and what'll be out. I think the only thing that would keep me from, or the only reason I would sell this car would be if they do a 22 or a 23, kind of like a special edition, maybe like a GT version or something like that. But I wouldn't upgrade it or, sell it, swap it for, a full performance. I kind of like the rear drive feeling of it. I've owned a all-wheel drive as well. And, we could go back and forth on that all day, so I'll leave it at that. In terms of the car, I've had, there's videos along the way. The thing about an R8 is it's not as emotional as, say, like a Huracan or a Ferrari in many cases. It's geared and designed as like an Audi Halo car, so a little more geared towards, the ability to drive it every day, etc. And so for me, of course, I wanted something with a little more emotion in the drive. So, I added some different wheels, which give the car a bit more aggressive look and stance versus the stock kind of silver spiral looking on the 22. And those are the only option on the 22. So it's not like I could even upgrade or change for something else. The other thing was the Quicksilver exhaust, and that certainly brings the V10 to life. And I have some other videos on the Quicksilver itself, cold start, driving videos, etc. And probably the last thing is the Vorsteiner wing on the rear, which, initially I ordered or purchased. You kind of buy them used. I picked up a stock performance exhaust and like the OEM size, and I ended up saying, look, if I'm going to add a wing, I want to add something more aggressive. And seeing the Vorsteiner wing on a few other R8s, I'm really glad that I did, especially on a black car. I feel like it really, that kind of three-quarter view when you're walking up to it, it's hard to capture in videos, but it just gives it a really aggressive stance. In terms of stock options, or options from the factory, I have a full video on that. The only thing exterior that you would see are the red calipers. Everything else, well, the other thing would be the black exhaust tips, which I was a huge fan of. I'm biased towards having kind of the black chrome tips versus having the silver tips. So I was really happy with that. Everything else on the exterior, there's no other options. The only other option you could get is carbon fiber side blades, and I did pass on that because I kind of diverted the funds towards the exhaust and the wheels and a few interior upgrades. And The other item that I passed on was having all carbon fiber in the engine bay, which of course would be nice. Who doesn't want it? However, you know, on other R8s I didn't have it, and you know, just kind of prioritize some other features. So from the exterior, you know, the only other thing I would even do to the car is maybe a more aggressive front lip. I had that on some of my previous R8s, and you know, what I did do is when I did a PPF on the front, one of my other videos, I actually wrapped, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but the very bottom in a carbon fiber weave PPF. So I know some people might say it's a little cheesy because it's not real carbon fiber, but quite honestly, I'm wrapping it anyway. And to have like a little extra carbon fiber trim worked out pretty well. And I did wrap the side blades in carbon fiber, and I think they turned out really good. So they're protected with PPF, plus, you know, get the carbon fiber look. You know, is it cheesy or not? You know, to each his own, but it works for me, so I'm happy with that. So that is where I started. So ordered the car a year ago. I've had it for 7 months. I have about 2,200 miles on it right now. And you know, that leads into another question, which will be another video, which is essentially, you know, do you drive the crap out of the car, drive it every day, or do you kind of preserve it and keep it nice? You know, part of the problem is with these, you know, being able to order or to pick up, you know, an R8 or a naturally aspirated V10 is maybe another year or two or less if you can even get one. And so while I'm not trying to make it a, you know, collect the car or necessarily for resale, it certainly gives me a little bit of pause knowing that, you know, this is it and can't get a new one again. I plan to keep it as long as I can, maybe forever. And that's kind of why I decided, you know, with limited availability, ordering one brand new was the way to go. So that's around the exterior. Really nothing else I'm going to be doing to it, to be honest. You know, the other thing I would like is, it would be nice to have carbon fiber, you know, rear diffuser in the back. However, wrapping it looked like it was going to be a pretty difficult job. And then you can purchase them. Personally, I wasn't a huge fan of how they looked, so there's just not a lot of options. But other than that, pretty happy with the car. Happy with the fact that I was able to pick it up. Happy with the modifications that I've done. I may look at some different wheels over time. Just not a priority right now. I like how they turned out. Originally I wanted some Brixtons, and I have a whole nother video on that. And I might end up with those at some point, but right now kind of some other priorities going on. In terms of the interior, if I go around to the driver's side, kind of the only interior upgrade that I've done is added a kind of aftermarket steering wheel. The carbon fiber matches at least good enough for me with the interior, and has a little bit of red stitching to it. I like the perforated leather, carbon fiber, flat bottom look. I feel like it fits the character of the car pretty well, and you know, just kind of steps it up on the interior side. I went with red, which, you know, for me, I've had cars with, you know, like M cars and Porsches. I feel like once you get a performance car, kind of something a little more unique or sporty, whatever, then having a red interior contrasts and makes it pop. Huge upgrade or decision was around the interior color, because I was leaning towards black with red stitching or just do express red. And I'm really glad that I did express red. I know it's not for everyone, it can be a little bit polarizing, but with the diamond stitch, really happy how it looks. And then, you know, it gives you the headliner as the package. The diamond stitching is an upgrade, and extended leather on the dash, which, you know, I think it looks really good. You know, they certainly could have stepped it up a bit, to be honest. Like maybe they did something more on the GT level, like a suede option, a suede dash, suede seats, Alcantara. I think that could look really cool on a high-end performance car. I mentioned, you know, the sport exhaust. There's a sport exhaust package, which is huge because it gives you the performance mode, which is down here, and then it gives you the sport exhaust button. And with the CETE controller that I have, I literally have, I'm not exact, like 20 different exhaust settings I can play around with, between like the drive select modes, which is 4 modes, plus the factory settings, pushing a button with sport exhaust open, sport exhaust close, CETE, default. I have another video on all that stuff. And so I'm really happy with that, because the Quicksilver is really loud. And at first, honestly, I was going to tear it off and go back to a Klein. But with the 22s having the way the exhaust is set up, at first it was a bit of an Achilles heel, and it turned out to actually work out really well for me, because it keeps the sound down a little bit just driving around inside the cabin. But then once you get on it, you got all these different settings to play around with. So I was really, really happy with that. One thing that I wasn't, probably the one thing is the stitching. It's silver with red, and I mean, it looks good. It looks very upscale, and it's an Audi interior, so it's like very, very well built. And really no one does interiors better, or I mean, within reason, of course. But I noticed in the kind of previous versions, they did actually white stitching. So not a huge deal, honestly, at the end of the day. And yeah, so am I happy with the interior selection? I am. And I'm happy that I went red. Car pops, and I really like it against black with the contrast. So that is 7 months. You know, happy I made, number one, happy I made the decision. Number two, the items I added, happy so far. And it's probably one of the first times that I've owned a car, kind of